It's 2025 and we meet again. The last time we sat in this office to have this kind of an engagement was in 2024, and a lot has happened since then. Well, the year ended, another one began. Most of you embarked on a 10-day prayer journey, my 10 days as they're called. Some of you sat down and came up with New Year's resolutions. And yeah, I wonder how that's going. Also, yeah, Valentine's happened. And if you really look at it, time is really moving. 1 month is already down. We are now in the second, probably going into the third month. And pretty soon, the first quarter of the year will be over. Now, this got me to think, as a people, how are we engaging? What kind of conversations are we having? And one thing that really comes to mind is something that has been boggling my mind. A few weeks ago, I had an engagement with one of my brother, Pastor Ray, and we really had a discussion around investing. And as I sat down to think about it, it's really embedded in our culture. It's really embedded in how we think and how we do things as a Black people, as people from Zimbabwe, people from Africa. I wouldn't know about East and West Africa, but with certainty, I know this for a fact. Most of the countries in the southern part of Africa, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Mozambique, Zambia, Malawi, and the likes, we kind of have one point of divergence in how we treat finance and how we treat money. Now, this brother of mine was just telling me how he's teaching his son savings. So he says once in a while, a few times a month, he would say, "Boy, I've got some money. Do you need me to give you money right now, or you want me to save it for you?" And he was saying he's teaching his kid savings. I really applauded him for that, because this is something we read in the books, a savings culture. This is something that the books have taught that it needs to be embedded in kids at a very young age. But now it got me to think, for kids, it's one of the most amazing way of building a relationship with finance at that tender age. But it got me thinking, is it not what we are still doing as adults? It really got me thinking. Now, it is one thing to be able to save your money. It's another to be in a position that you are able to grow that money. And again, I'll come back to this. This is something that we have been socialized to think around. This is the kind of relationship that we have with finance as a Black people. Very few of us are able to grow that money through investing or any other means. And a good story from the good book quickly comes to mind. And I thought, since the majority of our people are Christian, I would read from a good book. And I'm going to read from the book of Matthew, chapter 25, starting from verse number 14. It's the parable of talents. Now, this is Jesus speaking. He says, "For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability." I want you to underline this. "Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded them, and made 5 talents more. So also who had 2 talents and made 2 talents more. But he who had received 1 talent," now listen to this, this is where the majority of us are. It says on verse number 18, "But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Okay, so I want you to see the relationship. We were talking about talents, but here now it's saying he went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. So the talents and money, look at that relationship. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came back and settled accounts with them. He who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he who also had 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered unto me 2 talents. Here I've got 2 more. His master said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid. Okay, underline that as well. And I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But the master answered him. Now listen carefully here. You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was of my own with interest. So take the talent from him, give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from one who is not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is quite an interesting read. And as I was reading it again, I was actually seeing more and more things that I'd missed in my initial research. So too, this is a story that's in the Bible, and like many stories, it's quite difficult to bring into context. So I'm gonna try my best. I've done some research and I'm gonna approach it from 2 ways. So this is a story being told by Christ, and this is more than 2,000 years ago. And in that community during that time, a talent was worth 30 kgs of gold. So for context's sake, and for us to be able to understand this story in detail, we're going to take everything from 2,000 years ago and bring it today and try to calculate the values of what was being talked about here. So during this era, over 2,000 years ago, 1 talent was worth about 30 kgs of gold. And if we were to translate or extrapolate and bring the values to today's value, I think this morning I looked on the stock markets and gold is trading around 72,000 pounds a kg. So to bring this into pounds, 1 talent equals to 30 kgs times the cost of a kilogram of gold in today's value. So that's about 30 kgs times 72,000 pounds, which will give you about 2.1 million. So to the first one, the master left about 10.5 million pounds, which is equivalent to 5 talents, as he went on his journey. To the second one, who had received 2 talents, in today's value, the master had left 2.4 million pounds. And to one last guy, the master left 2.1 million pounds. Now, the goal was to grow this money. And as I told you, the majority of us are trading on a level of the third servant who took one talent and went and hid it into the ground. This is a direct equivalent of you and I saying, you know what, I'm going to earn my money. And when I earn my money, I'm going to put it in a bank and make sure that I do not spend recklessly. I'm going to be frugal as much as I can and make sure that I store value. You know, to most of us, this will sound like the most noble thing to do, saving your money. We all want to do that. But look at what Christ is saying to us here. He's giving that very example as being one of the worst things that you could ever do as a person. I know I might have lost a lot of people when I started talking about £1 million and all that. I'll try to boil it down even more further. I'll water it down. So, research also says that one talent was equivalent to 6,000 denaries. If you still remember the story in the Bible where one lady was looking for a denarii. And also, one denarii was a day's wage for, I would say in today's terms, minimum wage. And one day would be equivalent to a day's work. But for me to further water this down, I would say probably a person was paid 1 denarii per hour. And in today's terms, with your minimum wage in the UK, that would be about £12.21. £12.21. Starting from April. And one talent was equivalent to 6,000 of these denaries. So if you were to say £12.21 times 6,000, that would get you around £72,000. So to one, he was given 365,000 to take care of, and the other one was given £146,000. Now the third one was given £73,000 as the master went away. Now the issue here is we as a people has been taught and conditioned and socialized, and this is something that we pride ourselves in saying you work and you keep your money. Christ is saying that is the wrong relationship with finance. In Christ's story, he's saying you and I ought to invest whatever that we get. I do understand that a lot of people would say, you know, we're living paycheck to paycheck and it's really difficult to have something that we're going to invest by the side and, you know, make sure that our money grow. I would want to push back to that and say it's not really about how much we have. It's just about the culture. This is the same conversation you would have with someone who say, I'm not going to save because, you know, at the end of the month, I'm only left with 100 or 200 pounds. So it makes no sense to, you know, save money. You know, some would prefer that they would have an extra 1,000 or an extra £1,500 to be able to start saving meaningfully. So with the same kind of logic, I would say to you, it's not really that you're earning much or you're earning less. It's a matter of culture. If you start by saying, I'm going to save £10 a week, you could also say, I'm going to invest £10 a week. And there are a group of people that have really mastered this issue. Number one, Makoronyera. I'll take you back to Zimbabwe. Number one, Makoronyera. And number two, Vanamada Vipamsika. If there is one group of people that really mastered the art of investing, the art of multiplying money, are these two groups of people. Number one, Vanamada Vipamsika. Number two, Makoronyera. Timurere no spina cash. Now, if if some of you are privileged enough to have grown around this community where you have a lot of mothers fending for their families through selling pamsika, through selling, madir, not someone who has a 9 to 5, you would really understand this. How am I saying this? If you look at Vana Moms, you get to their house, they will say, "Andinagana sent pamba panapa. I don't have I'm not liquid at all." But if you look at their stock, they almost make sure that they don't keep any money. So kana wakambogara pamba pangapane tax shop kana chichi, you realize that this group of people really mastered the art of multiplying money, the art of growing their money. They do understand that money loses value. As long as you're liquid, you are at a risk of losing value. But when you store value in something, when you try and invest your money, you make sure that you store value, you make sure that you retain value. And one way when a mother would do it is to make sure kuti whatever that they sell, if she sells $20 in a day, she would make sure that she would just take off your living wage. She would just take off Marie Madomasi and Marie Chingwa, Marie Mwana break. And the rest of the early in the morning, rush to Mbarimsika and get more stock. So you would find that this lady will have $5 liquid cash in a house, but she will have probably 300 or 500 worth of goods, worth of stock. If you go and look in your pantry, you will find stocks of sugar, stocks of salt and all that, things that she is selling. She has mastered the art of multiplying money. And this is something that is lacking amongst a lot of my peers. This is something that is lacking amongst a lot of my people. We focus too much on growing our reserves in terms of actual cash, in terms of actual pounds. It's almost a bragging thing that I've got 20,000 in my savings account. As long as that money is not growing, trust me, you are trading on a really, really low level. The goal should be my money or my asset is growing at this rate. It should never be about how much you have in your bank account. It should always be about how much is whatever that you have is growing. So one would say, how exactly can I grow my money? How exactly can I invest? There are certain ways, there are certain sure ways of growing your money that leverages on making sure that you are running at minimum risks and at the same time growing your money. So one of these tools are your stocks and shares ISA, or just your lifetime ISAs. They will grow with at least 3% every annum. You could also get your lifetime ISA that gets a 25% bonus at the end of your year. So this stock lifetime ISA, if you put whatever money up to a cap of 4,000 in one tax year, the following morning you get a 25% bonus for storing your money in that account. So the majority of people who are buying houses are actually doing this. You keep your money, it grows with that 3.75%, but at the end of your financial year, you get a 25% bonus. Something I did not know. Something I, only got to know when I started, doing this research on how people are getting properties and stuff like that. So again, I'll reiterate on this one. It's not about how much you have in your account. It's always about at what rate is your asset growing. I thank you.